that self-preservation mode. And one of the things we need to discover about ourselves as we grow as people and into adulthood and entrepreneurship is that neglect in our own lives can stop us from crawling, walking, flying, and soaring later on in life. So to talk about going from neglect to soaring and creating a positive impact in the world, we really need to back up and look at the beginning. Now we're going to talk about infancy. I mean, we're taking it way back, right? So one of the things that we need to do as entrepreneurs and some of the tasks that we need to relearn in many respects as women is having our voices heard. Now, what happens in infancy? Theoretically, when an infant is crying, you pick up the infant, you make sure that the infant is clean, has its nutrition, doesn't have a fever, you comfort the infant and calm the infant. The infant realizes that when it cries, its needs are going to be met. Crying in infancy is the first attempt of human beings to start to exercise their voice because that's the only voice they have at that time. So what happens when people do not have their needs taken care of at a very young age? They learn that their voices aren't heard. And that impacts our neural connections going on down the road. And I know this from experience because I spent time as a child and as a teenager in a domestic violence shelter, and I grew up in a very chaotic home. I was on public assistance and lived in public housing and later experienced periods of functional homelessness. And as time went on, I was finding that my voice wasn't heard, and I began to believe that my voice would never be heard. So I just didn't exercise it. Feeling this way, I ended up dropping out of high school at the suggestion of a very close family member whose opinion, ideas, and motivation I didn't question. I didn't question it because I had blind faith, but I also knew that my voice didn't matter. This failure to exercise my voice also predictably led to relationships that fell flat on their face or were dangerous or otherwise toxic. Now, how do you overcome these types of neglect to get on your feet and stand on your feet? We can sit here and talk about how we need to hug ourselves and love ourselves and appreciate ourselves, but one of those things that we really need to recognize is that it's one thing to intellectualize these truths, and it's another thing entirely to totally own it and feel it inside.